I have been searching for a new watercolor palette for a long time now, but at least for the last 2 months, I've really been searching hard. So if you're interested in knowing which one I finally selected and why, and which colors I'm going to put in it, then keep watching. And I'm also going to share a couple of other general tips and tricks with you about palettes and tube paints. Welcome back, everyone. If this is your first time here, my name is Teresa. I'm a surface pattern designer and watercolor artist. And I'm not going to make you wait any longer before I tell you which one I chose. I purchased the Shynes palette, and I hope I'm saying that right. It comes in several different sizes, and the one that I wanted was larger than this one. I think it holds 42, 43 paints. I can't remember the exact number, but it was a little bit larger than this one, but it hasn't been available now for quite some time. So I finally gave up and decided to order the one that's just below that one. So this one holds 35 colors. And I have to say, I'm really glad that I went ahead and ordered it because I think I'm going to love this one. Let me show you why. So here's the old palette and the new palette. As you can see, the new one is quite a bit larger than the old one. And let me just preface this by saying I have really enjoyed this old palette. There are just a few things about it I would like to change. First of all, it's very difficult to open. There's just this small little slot right here for your fingers, and the clasp is so strong. I struggle every time. And then there's also this large gap right here, so paint has a tendency to spill over into that gap and get onto my desktop, especially when I'm using a larger brush. I also just wanted more paint wells. This one has 28, which is good, but I love so many colors, I just wanted more. If you like a limited palette though, then 28 would be plenty. And these mixing wells are plenty big. I did not like this part over here. I don't really use the thumb hole, and I don't really use these little paintbrush holes either, so this was just wasted space for me. I would much rather have had another mixing well right here. Now, in contrast, the new palette has this very easy to open clasp. I love this clasp. And the whole palette is just so much larger. There are 35 paint wells, as I think I mentioned before. So this palette has several things that that larger palette doesn't have that I was talking about. For instance, there are no dividers on that larger palette in the mixing well area. So this one actually has a little medium-sized well right over here because it's divided right there. So there's the medium one, and then there's this larger one, and then two smaller circle ones, which that's going to be interesting. I don't really know how I'm going to feel about that. We'll see. And then it has this extra large area right here. I wish this side had dividers into like these 3 sections on this side, but that's okay. We'll just see how that goes. And the larger one had 5 more paint wells over here on this right side, just like the left side. So I really think that's the only difference between that larger one and this one. So I spent days trying to decide which colors I was going to include in this palette. So I made a chart. Of course, I made a chart. I actually made several charts and then made changes. And this one actually has a few changes on it that I'm going to make today. But this is the basic layout of what I'm going to do. So the first one I'm going to put right up here in the top left corner. This is buff titanium. You know, if you watch my videos, you know I use this a lot, especially in toning down a color. But so I'm going to squeeze it out, just like this. Then, you know how, let me see, here we go, I can't get it open. Okay, there we go. Okay, now, you know how sometimes you get these little clumps like this and they get really hard and you have to really scrub it with your paintbrush to get it to break down. That just drives me crazy. And then it finally dawned on me, I could spread that paint out. So I tried it. And so when I refilled some of these, I really smoothed it out and it worked so much better. As you can see, I was able to use all of the paint. So I'm going to do that in this palette. And in fact, I'm going to do that forever now. I will just spread this out, and I put a lot of this buff titanium in here. I probably shouldn't have put quite that much. I have seen artists doing this before with like a toothpick and things like that. I guess I just never understood why they were doing it. Well, now I know. Yeah, I put a little too much in here. I'll go lighter next time. So you just smooth it out the best you can. See, and when you're using it, it continues to say smoothed out because your brush is naturally flowing over the top of it. It just works so well. Next, we are going to do cadmium-free yellow pale. And so I'm going to use my 3 basic yellows. So I'm not going to talk a whole lot about them because if you've watched my other videos, you've seen me use them over and over. And I prefer cadmium-free, but they're the same as the cadmium versions. So this one is just the regular yellow. See, the first one was pale, and now this is the regular one. And when I was swatching these out, I realized, okay, the Da Vinci Arlide is really the same color. So I didn't need to purchase the Da Vinci version because I already had this one, except that this one's now about used up. So I'm glad I have that second one. And the next color, I'm going to do the cadmium-free yellow deep. Let's just smooth that out real quick. Okay. So this deep color, these 3 colors work so well together. Anytime I'm painting a yellow flower, I end up using a little bit of all 3 of these. So they're just staples in my palette. And now I have cadmium-free orange. So this orange, I always use this for pumpkins and things like that because I always thought that's such a great pumpkin color. And then I found this new, well, it's not new, it's new to me, orange red. And look at this pop. I mean, that is some gorgeous color. And so of course I thought, okay, that is so pumpkin-esque. And it didn't really swatch that bright. So I thought, okay, I need to see a better view of it. So I used the cadmium-free orange and this new orange red together to do this pumpkin. And wow, look at that. I love those colors together. So this fall, I am going to be using these 2 colors constantly. Now we have Scarlet Lake. This is another staple in my palette. And as you can see, if we compare it to the orange red, it's a little bit more red, really. A little less orange, a little more red. So I really think it's going to pair well with the orange red and the cadmium-free orange. But I did not use Scarlet Lake on the pumpkin. Next, Windsor Red. This is another staple in my palette. Good basic color. And now here's the second new one for me. The Windsor Red Deep. And this, oh my goodness, such a great color. So anytime I'm using the Windsor Red, I will now use this Windsor Red Deep because look at that. I mean, it makes the perfect shadow for Windsor Red. And honestly, I would probably add a little bit of black maybe to it to deepen up these shadows just in spots. Just in the deepest spots. but I didn't want to do that for this, just for comparison's sake. And now this is Quinacridone Red, another staple in my palette. And Permanent Rose, another staple in my palette. See, I have so many colors that I love. I absolutely love. And then now Opera Pink. And I'm not a big fan of Opera Pink. See how fluorescent it is? I just don't use it that often, but it is a fun summer color, so I thought I would include it. It doesn't film well for me. It's really odd. I don't know, my lighting in here is strange. And Quinacridone Violet. Now this one is another new one for me. Oh my goodness. So when I was swatching all these out, I had 3 purples that are the same exact purple. I had Violet, Da Vinci Violet, Winsor Newton Violet Dioxine, and Imperial Purple by Danielle Smith. And as you see, they're exactly the same. I had no idea I had 3 of the same color. So then I went on a hunt for another purple, and I came up with this Quinacridone Violet, which, oh, I mean, love this. I mean, look how pretty that is. Gorgeous. So now I'll put it with my purples, but I'm going to put it next to the Opera Pink, since it has more pink in it than the violet. Okay, then we'll put the violet in here, and the Da Vinci one is the one that's just about empty, so I'm going to try to finish that up. And I won't have to buy violet for quite a while. Now this next color is a brand new color for me, again, for me. Moon Glow. Oh my goodness, y'all. This color is going to come in so handy for Halloween. It has a purple tint to it, but it's a very spooky color. So I did some comparisons here. So this is Moon Glow. And see, it has a purple background. And then this is violet. And this is the Quinacridone. Sometimes I get tongue-tied on that. Okay, now I can't say it. You know what I mean. And then Payne's Gray. That little blue-gray. And indigo. Have to have indigo. I'm sure a lot of these everybody has in their palette. And Prussian Blue, another staple. So pretty. Okay, I'm getting this all over me. Trying to get it out of the tube. Okay, now Cerulean Blue. I'm sure most everyone knows about Cerulean Blue. It's such a good sky color. If you don't, that's a really good staple to have in your palette. And now this one is new to me. Winsor Blue Green. It's a real pretty blue. And Phthalo Blue. So all these are just your typical blues. Okay, next up we have a super fun color. Winsor Newton's Cobalt Turquoise Light. And it has a twin, Danielle Smith's Cobalt Teal. And this, my friends, is nothing more than Summer in a Tube. Oh my goodness, this is such a fun color. I mean, look at that. Isn't that bright and happy? And this darker one is Phthalo Blue. So they pair really well together. And that was so much fun. I had to do the flower twice. And I also started thinking, remember how I said that I don't use Opera Pink very often? Well, I think I'm going to have to start using it more often, because look at that. So that's Opera Pink, the Cobalt Turquoise Light, and phthalo blue. So they pair really well together as well. I mean, so summery. And you know what other color I think would work really, really well? Look at our chart. The Da Vinci Violet. I think, well, any of the violets. Remember, there are 3. So any of the violets I think would be really great with that as well. So anyway. Okay, let's move on to greens. So of course the first one has to be sap green because that's, you know, my staple green. Then my only new green is deep sap green. I didn't even know they made a deep sap green. I don't know where I've been. I love sap so much. I can't believe I didn't know that. But so anyway, there is a deep sap. So I had to have that. See how much darker it is than sap green? So again, with the shadows, that's going to go so well. It's going to make great shadows for sap green. Can't wait to use that. And then I'll put Hooker's Green next, and I don't use Hooker's Green very often. And when I do, I usually mix it with something else to tone it down a bit. Then my other favorite, Green Gold. And so I'm torn between green gold and olive green all the time. And see, there is a difference. The green gold is a little more goldy, go figure that. And the olive green is a little more green. Makes total sense. But when I mix it with sap green or something else, I don't notice a big difference. So I really interchange these 2 colors quite a bit. Did want them both in my palette because when I don't have one, I wish I had it. So we'll put them both in here. And now we're going to do Undersea Green. And see, this is such a lovely color. I love this color. And then Perylene Green, which we can compare it here. It's more blue. The Undersea Green has more green and Perylene has more blue. And then I'm going to add Mars Black. I don't usually use black, especially right out of the tube, but this Mars Black really mixes well with other colors. So if we take Mars Black and mix it with sepia, for instance, it makes a terrific shadow color, which I use this a lot in my shadows. Then if you mix it with this beautiful Undersea Green, it makes a very moody green, which this you can use in all kinds of situations, especially if you're working with more of a green palette, a lot of foliage and trees. Then if you mix it with indigo, look how moody that is. I mean, that looks like a storm brewing. And then if we mix it with Moon Glow, that purple, lovely, lovely, moody purple, turns into the perfect Halloween haunted night sky. So now we have 4 very moody, shadowy colors that we just created by using just a little touch of Mars Black in with them. So useful. Well, let's finish this up by doing our little side street here of neutrals. And first is going to be sepia. I'll put it next to the Mars Black since I use them quite a lot. And then next we'll go to my favorite brown, Van Dyke Brown. Then we'll do Burnt Umber, another really good one. I'm finishing that tube off. And then Raw Sienna. All these are very common colors, so I won't talk a whole lot about them. And Yellow Ochre, another good neutral. Well, there we go. Isn't that lovely? So pretty. I love it. I can't wait to get started painting. So here's my final chart. Since I had made changes to my swatch chart, I just took a picture of my final palette and labeled it. And so now I'll just tape this to my wall beside my desk. Okay, there's just one other thing I wanted to mention. So each brand, or most of the brands that I've looked up anyway, have a color chart available online. So this is the Winsor & Newton one, and I have found this most helpful because if you print them all out, then that can give you a better idea of which colors may be the same, and you can avoid, hopefully, what I've done of buying the same colors over and over in different brands. So this is very helpful, and I will put a link to a couple of them down below. I'll do the Winsor & Newton and Daniel Smith for certain, and I'll just see which other ones I can find. So maybe that'll help you. I hope so anyway. Well, if you like this one, please give me a thumbs up and let me know. And if you haven't already, of course, please subscribe. It really does help my channel grow. And it also helps the algorithm know that you liked this content, so other people may as well. Thanks so much, and I hope to see you back again next week.